So we've seen some pretty horrifying things in our run with Higurashi when they cry go. But to see a little girl who flinches so hard that she throws up and freaks out to the point of crying for her dead brother because a character that she likes as much as Keiichi rose his hand to pat her head and she thought she was going to get beat is the most horrifying thing we've seen in this show, and we've seen some graphic murders. Abuse in stories, I think generally anime they don't do well. I think it's generally pretty distasteful with how they write it. Higurashi has already proven to do it a lot better than most series out there, and you know the abuse is just getting started, and you know it's going to get very, very disturbing. But if I can say one thing, they've made it very easy to hate the uncle and wish the uncle to get that baseball bat to the head. I can already tell that that probably has happened in a different timeline based on our boy seemingly remembering other timelines in his dreams, or at least that's what I assume has been happening. But yeah, this was a heavy episode. I mean, I think one of the more shocking aspects about this episode wasn't the abuse, was actually the police officer. I mean, in every loop that we've been a part of, he's had this creepy aura, but he's always seemingly been on our boy's side. This is the first time that he seemingly is very hostile towards him, to the point that he actually physically wounded him when shaking him down for information. Didn't even bother to ask him his name face to face. He asked little girls to say what's his name. So I'm very curious to see what this loop is going to do, because when he was initially introduced, I had Stranger Danger vibes, and then quickly I realized he was one of the rare allies we seemingly had in each loop. Now is very hostile and doesn't really feel like he probably trusts Keiichi in the slightest. This was an interesting episode. One of the biggest shocks, I would say, is that we have Sadako, who actually lied about child abuse. I was curious why the Child Protective Services were so we'll look into it, because yes, it does happen a lot because you do need definitive proof. It felt to me like they were very much brushing it aside. I thought maybe, well, where they live, it just is a lot shittier than where I live. I thought maybe that's why the services were a lot less gung-ho about doing things. But to see that she actually used a lie to get rid of her father, to now the point where it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. You did it too many times, and one is too many times. It's an inexcusable act, in my opinion, and even though I think it's inexcusable, I do not wish her to get harmed in the slightest, but you understand why the services would no longer take her word, because she lied and ruined someone's life. And in doing so, now is stuck with a true abuser. Not only is it bad because she's probably physically and emotionally abused, she also has to abuse herself knowing that she lied, not only got her into this situation, but ruined someone else's life, and that's what she claimed her father to be, is the person who's now hurting her. And that's a very interestingly painful direction to take a story like this, but I think it's one that's definitely needed. I imagine this arc's probably going to last up until the end of episode 12, and then we'll kick off into next season with a brand new arc. And I don't know where we're going with this, truthfully, because Rika has been completely crushed. I think this is the most crushed we've seen Rika in. I don't know what she wants to do, because we haven't reset yet, so seemingly the quota hasn't been met in terms of needing to reset. It has to be death, apparently. And the fact that death is probably what's causing the resets, and you're seeing something worse than death take place to one of your closest friends, that's gotta weigh heavily on you, and it weighs heavily on everyone here. And I think you can already begin to imagine what's happening behind closed doors, and it's probably much more than just getting beaten. And that's what makes it so disgusting. And what was really interesting in this episode was Irie, who was a normal person, and I know people told me he was a normal person, but his introduction was creepy and beyond repair. And there's no reason for it to be like that, especially considering that he seems to be a genuine guy. So, as long as he remains to be who we saw in this episode, I'll have nothing against the character. And, I mean, when you have someone like the uncle, I mean, everyone's going to look like a saint next to this bastard. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with this, because the thing that I would assume would happen would Keiichi would beat his head in with a bat. But Keiichi's still a normal person, even though apparently in previous loops by his dreams and what the show starts off as would indicate that he was kind of a lunatic. So I'm curious what's going to happen if he's going to, go into the house, he's going to see what's really happening, he's going to take actions into his own hands. I'm not exactly sure, but hopefully, I mean, the optimist can say hopefully the police will catch this bastard red-handed and he'll be thrown away if not killed. It's very hard to say, but this episode was all about the heaviness. It was all about really making you disgusted with this arc, and disgusted is a feeling that you don't get out of too many shows, especially when most anime that try to handle abuse, they make it laughable and they make it feel like a mockery. But this felt like a true girl who had to play up an innocent act to make it feel like she wasn't being abused, that she was happy. And honestly, she did a damn good job. If it wasn't for that simple movement that gave her a PTSD flashback to probably what happened in that house, it probably would have lasted quite a while. I feel like with her freaking out the way it did, that's definitely going to get back to her uncle. And as soon as she goes home, I don't know if she'll make it out alive. I just don't know what to feel about this. It's without a doubt probably my personal favorite episode of Higurashi for how much it disgusts me. It's such a powerful and revolting episode that really brings out such touchy subject matter in a way that feels genuine and believable for how disgusting it is. They touch upon so many different themes, like lying about abuse to then having that abuse touch upon you. Keiichi seemingly being a saint, saying like, why would that even stop them from believing a second time? Guy clearly has a heart of gold, all things considered. And I don't know. I don't know where they go with this. All I can say is the pain of knowing one of your closest friends is being harmed and you can do nothing about it. That is such a horrifying feeling, and they did such a great job with the directing to do very subtle and very noticeable cues. Obviously, when she comes in the first time and she looks like she hasn't slept in a month, you know there's abuse going on. But the second time when she comes in putting on that persona, every time she was doing something, I was expecting something to trigger her abuse. Like when she was eating the food at first, I thought maybe she got her tooth knocked out by her uncle or something. I was like, oh, nothing is happening. But then as soon as you see the hand and the flinching and then just obviously the vomiting, they definitely escalate it. But there's so many just different cues from just either the people surrounding her or herself that really gives you off a very depressing feeling. Higurashi is a very fascinating show for how many different styles of anime it can present. And the dramatic element of this week's episode was incredible to me. And it's very hard to say, like, what's the purpose of this arc? Are we going to kill the uncle? Is that going to trigger a reset? Is this arc going to lead into the next one without a reset? It's very hard to say. And I don't know what's going to happen next, because I can tell the abuse is just going to get worse. It's just going to get more revolting. But it's a matter of what's the end result of this arc and what's going to separate this arc from not happening again in the following one. It's just a very sad episode. It's one that definitely gets you feeling empty inside and full of rage, but that rage is just boiling up and wishing that our boy will take a baseball bat to his head and just end this bastard. There's no redeeming qualities of him if he's beating this girl and doing things probably worse than death to her. This was an incredible episode to me. I don't know how other people will feel about it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disgust for the episode, but that disgust is there on purpose. It's a matter of if you can stomach the episode or not, and honestly, this is probably one of the harder episodes to stomach, and that's what makes it so great. It's horrifying, but it's great. I love this show. It continues to get better. I don't know what's going to happen next week, but I'm excited and terrified to find out. Amazing episode of Higurashi once again. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think, and how much do you hate that uncle like I do? Because I think he deserves a fate worse than death. Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.